Vertebral nerve ablation. This is ICD-10 code 54.51. And this is a new ICD-10 code. This is for patients that have axial low back pain, that have modic type 1 or 2 degenerative end plate changes. Chronic by definition, meaning back pain of 6 months or more, and those that have failed non-surgical or conservative care. And so these patients are identified. This is on label for L3 to S1. It's on label for L3 to S1. Off-label for other lumbar levels, and it is targeting the terminus of the basivertebral nerve, which is halfway between the superior and inferior end plate, and it's at the 40-yard line from back to front, so it's just 50% or less from the anterior to the posterior portion. And so this is supported by a couple level 1 trials, Intercept, and the SMART trial. It's got, last time I counted, 38 pieces of evidence, including multiple clinical trials. It's got non-industry-sponsored trials. It's got prospective single-arm control trials, multi-center site. So this is really, the amalgam of evidence follows kind of along fairly clean and narrow lines, meaning that most of the results you get are pretty predictable and fairly consistent. So what I usually tell the patients is, like, for axial low back pain, yes, you have modic changes. So the statistics are this. You've got a 75% responder rate. If you're a responder, your average pain reduction is 75%, and it appears to be permanent or durable. So that's kind of a summary statement of the amalgam of the evidence. So let's show you the basivertebral nerve ablation. This is done, and Phil's going to help me here. This is a model. It's a very nice model, in fact. We're going to do L4, contralateral to where I am, picture there. And that's about the right start point, about a half of a T-body width out. And I'm going to come down and hold it with my hands because this isn't real fluoro picture. And go up a little bit, picture. And that's a pretty good start point, picture. I'm gonna get a better bite. Picture that. Good. All right, let's go lateral. And we'll take the stylet out, and we'll put the nitinol curved stylet in. We'll get the appropriate arrow indicator, so we'll go medial on this. This is kind of a rock up and in one motion. To get this fairly stiff piece of nitinol, so it takes a couple times to get the gist of this picture. And so we're going to take the J-shaped stylet, and we're going to angle this thing toward midline. I'm going to start over. I'm a little bit high there. And I want to get this perfect. So we want to get it halfway between superior and inferior end plates, and we're going to get this just posterior to the 50-yard line. All right, picture that. A good start. I'm going to advance a little bit. All right, picture that. Okay. All right. Picture. All right, better. Picture. Picture. I'm going to angle up a bit. Picture. Picture. So that's kind of what we want. We're about, if you were to go from distal to proximal, ventral to dorsal, and we're divide this, we're probably about 30%. The terminus of the BVN, the top of the trunk, happens at about halfway from front to back. So if we're going to target anything, we need to be at least at that halfway point or farther back, at the top of the trunk of the terminus, the top of the trunk of the tree, or back toward the base. And so we'll take a look on AP to see where we are. And there we are. If I'm going to pull the stylet out, and we'll have the probe that goes in, and picture that. And I'm going to advance it just a little bit farther, picture that. And I'm going to put that small dot. This is a bipolar probe. It has a very radiopaque distal electrode. The proximal one is not so radiopaque, and that small dot between the two is where you center things. So I'm going to roll the peak sheath back, take another shot, and it looks like I'm right directly in the midline. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to secure it, the probe wire, to make sure. Oh, okay, sorry. Picture that again. So yeah, the simulator doesn't allow me to do this, but to make room for the image intensifier, the eye to go back and forth, we take this and we pin it right here. It has a little notch so you can put the wire in to keep it out of the way of II, and the notch is here. You can see that, but we'll leave it right there for the simulation, and that's it. And so this is, if you're on target, it's a 15-minute burn time at 85 degrees C. The impedance is about between 200 and 300. If you're right on target, you can get away with the 7-minute burn, and same parameters, 85 degrees C for 7 minutes. And so this is basivertebral nerve ablation. It allows us to take care of people with axial back pain with motic changes. You can either select the patients based on MRI only, or you can do discography. I do anesthetic discography on everybody. Let's say we're targeting this level is L4. Let's say they have 3, 4, 4, 5 disease. I'll go in and inject those with a little bit of contrast. I'll anesthetize them, see if the pain goes away, make sure they have motic changes. If the pain goes mostly away or completely away, same as an SI joint fusion, then they're candidates. But you do not have to use discography. You can just do this off of anterior column, axial low back pain, and MRI only. You can use that as a patient selector. As I mentioned, based on the data we talked about, the anterior column pain, identifying combination of clinical characteristics and visual characteristics on the MRI, you can nail down this in terms of patient selection very well. So that is basivertebral nerve ablation.
Questions? Yeah.
Do we have data to compare the 7 minutes burn and the 15-minute burn?
No data yet. So that brings up a good point. Personally, I don't mind doing a 7-minute burn, somebody else doing it. I'm not doing 7-minute burns yet, and for the rationale that there's no data behind it. And if we're in a 25% non-responder rate and you don't get a response, is it because you have a 25% non-responder rate, or is it because you didn't go with a 15-minute burn? But there is data saying that in between 6 and 7 minutes, that's all you need, as long as you're on target, to adequately ablate that nerve. And I was part of that formative work, and I believe it. I just don't believe it enough to use it clinically without clinical data?
Yep.
That's a really good question, by the way.
Are you guys doing this mostly in the OR, or can this be done in the office with like IV sedation?
So no office. It can be done in the ASC or the OR in the HOPD, a hospital. I typically do most of my cases in the hospital. I practice out of a physician-owned hospital, so that's very easy for me. This can easily be done in an ASC. I think this is best done with deep sedation. In my experience, moderate sedation isn't quite enough to have the patient hold still. The cases tend to be longer, so it's difficult to do moderate anesthesia or MAC for that period of time. So for those reasons, I typically use either deep sedation and sometimes general anesthesia, but that's not common.
In the back there.
So do you perform the ablation of just those vertebral bodies with changes, or yes, do you do two vertebral bodies?
Yeah, so the question is, do you just do the levels with the motic changes, or do you go a level above and below?
So almost always I go above and below, and almost always the motic changes are above and below. If the motic changes are not above and below, they typically aren't motic changes. Typically things like the Schmorl's node or a trans in-plate disc herniation. But there are single level motic changes. And if you have modic changes that are exclusively present, let's say at L4, as compared with the level above at L3. There is data, Luigi Manfrey did a study using SPECT CT, identifying the modic changes that were active or had increased uptake on SPECT CT, treating that level only. In this example I'm giving, it would be L4 only, and not treating L3, and the results, the outcome were identical to treating both levels. So if you have additional information that allows you to be able to treat one level, that's perfectly fine. Otherwise, just go with the level above and the level below. And remember that modic changes, one of the cardinal signs of modic changes is that it's above and below of the disc that's affected.
And so the other indication is active Schmurl's nodes. So that goes into that single level vertebral body level if you're not just dealing with discogenic pain. So that is an on-label indication.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're doing intradiscal injections to plan for this, are you doing, if you're planning for like 3 vertebral bodies, are you doing the two intradiscal injections, and what is your local anesthetic choice?
If you're doing intradiscal injections for this and there's 2 levels, do you inject both, or do you plan on doing one and then come back for the other?
If there's 2 levels that are involved, I do both discs, and then I'll do all 4 vertebrae. So level above, level below for each disc.
Insurance is dicey because Medicare now wants 2 levels unless you have enough data to support doing more than 2 levels, so global period. So you end up doing, if you have an L3, 4, 4, 5, you'll kind of pick based on exam, do 4, 5, come back and do L3.
Does the intradiscal injection help with justification?
No. All right.
All right, you guys. Thanks.